My name is Jodi Slick. I'm CEO and founder of Ecolibrium3, which is a Duluth-based nonprofit organization that really works in kind of two different areas. One is working on community resilience and energy transition, and then the second is specifically working in the Lincoln Park neighborhood to revitalize it. Ecolibrium3's mission statement is to lead and inspire change in our community towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The way that we look at it at Ecolibrium3 is to often look at those in our community that are perhaps most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And so when we look at things with a resilience lens, it's really about trying to identify those individuals. And people can be more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change based on kind of their economics status. And then we also have some traditionally marginalized populations. And so we work, for example, in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. And when we think about climate justice, there are a number of things that have impacted that neighborhood, and sometimes disproportionately to other parts of our community. From the houses that they're living in and indoor air quality, to access to green space, to access to healthy food, to the economic situation they're in, access to health, the stress that they're under day to day as they try to figure out how to pay for energy in their homes, or the stress that they may be under due to systemic racism in our community. We have already seen, for example, in this community when we had the floods in 2012, we had within the 6 Minnesota counties and 1 Wisconsin county that was affected by that. Those that have the most financial resources are those that are able to recover from that type of climate-based disaster. Those that, for example, might be working just for an hourly wage, if they have to take a day or 2 or 5 off because their house is underwater, that's a significant impact to their income. And then they're in a situation in which they don't necessarily have the resources to rebuild or to replace things that are lost during the flood. And the way that we can help protect residents from the type of flooding that happened in 2012 is to make sure that we actually have some good green infrastructure on top of the hill that's able to retain water. But if you think about Lincoln Park, what we've done on top of the hill is actually fill in the swamps, and we've actually channelized streams, etc., because that's the Miller Hill Mall area. And so we have now a neighborhood that is more at risk of flooding because of activities that have advantaged others on top of the hill, but left those in the neighborhood at greater risk. So Ecolibrium3 is a member of the Minnesota State Climate Table, and so part of the commitment that we've made is to be working towards what we call equitable deep decarbonization. And so ways in which we do that is we run a program called the Duluth Energy Efficiency Program, and part of what that program does is actually offer additional assistance to low-income households, those with elderly individuals, those with disabled individuals, etc. So we run a program called Giving Comfort at Home, which works with community volunteers to actually go in and weatherize homes of low-income individuals. We also actually took the leadership in flood recovery after 2012, and so we created, we actually took our Duluth Energy Efficiency Program and kind of rapidly retooled that to help people rebuild. And when we did that, we actually modeled for the first time in this state prioritizing resilient recovery and energy efficient recovery. So for example, if we went into somebody's house and they had a fuel oil boiler or furnace, when we helped them rebuild their house after the flood, we converted them into natural gas, which would save them over $1,000 a year, make it more economical, and actually reduce their carbon footprint. We have also worked with the Department of Energy to increase the amount of solar installation that we have in this community by working with utilities and lots of stakeholders. Right now, we're working with a number of community stakeholders, and we're actually hoping by the end of this year to actually have this area's first community solar garden installed that would benefit low-income households. And we would basically use the energy or the value of the energy that's generated on that site to help people that are at risk of utility shutoffs. Ecolibrium3 works with a number of different agencies and organizations and funders in order to help low-income people. So one of the ways is through the City of Duluth's Community Development Block Grant Funds. We also work with the utilities, both Minnesota Power and Comfort Systems. Minnesota Power actually specifically has some targeted low-income dollars. And then there are other utilities. For example, one part of Duluth has Minnesota Energy Resources, provides gas, and we've actually worked with them to put together kind of a model program for helping people that are in mobile home or manufactured homes, because those are often very difficult houses to make energy efficient. In addition, our Giving Comfort at Home project really does depend on members of the community that are willing to volunteer and or kind of support that effort financially, so we can pay for materials and do all of that.